Well, boys, looks like you started the fun without me.
You're all sick. Every last one of you.
We're going to need a bigger gun.
What's the matter? You scared of things that go boom, boom?
Give me one goddamn reason why I shouldn't blow your goddamn brains all over that goddamn wall.
Ugh, you got your brains all over that goddamn wall.
Welcome to Double Feature. Michael, how are you doing this fine evening?
I'm doing wonderfully.
My name is Eric, and we're doing a show with two movies on
We're
it.
going to pair a couple films together. We're going to do Red Rock West and Burn After Reading.
So we'll call this the Because Red Rock West and Blood Simple Isn't Funny Enough episode of Double Feature.
Because I've just recently watched Blood Simple.
Yeah, that would have been perfect for this too,
oh my
right?
God,
I mean, that would have been actually a better double feature.
Red Rock West and Blood Simple is an enthrallingly tense double feature.
It is. Well, that's the problem. Too tense.
Fuck tension.
This way we'll get to talk about a lot of Coen stuff, but in a light, happy mood that everyone will enjoy. We're going to spoil both of the movies, obviously. You've heard this show before, right? No.
I haven't heard the show.
And then you probably want to use the chapters feature to skip over the movies you haven't seen. Or you know what? You're a free operating human being. Maybe you want to spoil the movies for yourself. I can
There
totally
is
deal
always
with
the
that.
possibility that people just listen to this show as an alternative to watching the films for, say, a date or trivia.
So they have a date with two strangers on the internet they don't know?
Yeah, I guess that's pretty much...
All right, so nothing wrong with that.
No.
What we're getting to is that we come on the show every week and we judge the listeners who do not watch the films. Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing at all.
As long as you know what you're getting into. Red Rock West is the first movie. Here's a name. Hasn't come up on the show in a while. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
John Dahl.
Oh, yeah.
So,
John Dahl.
Yeah, where do we know John Dahl from?
We know John Dahl from the world-famous Joyride episode of
World
Double
famous
Feature.
meaning one episode of our podcast famous.
Yeah.
You know what? That's not even true. It wasn't even the most famous episode on that show because that was also the Jeremy Caston episode.
Oh my God,
so
it was, wasn't it?
2/3 of the episode was crazy talk and 1/3 was Joyride.
But we did Joyride. We love Joyride and subsequently love John Dahl.
It's
jumping
true.
his cars in front of trains.
Although that was back when our show sounded like an insufferable review show.
Yeah, that's true.
So, sorry, everyone had to go through that. But we did talk Joyride, and you were showing that to me back in year one, and I liked it quite a bit, and obviously, you know, it was your movie, you liked it too.
Big fan of Joyride.
We talked about him being a big neo-noir guy.
Yeah.
And so I thought, all right, let's actually see that. Let's do one of those on the show. You know, Rounders came out right before Joyride, and I think that's a fine example of that stuff too. But man, Red Rock West, and
God damn,
it showcases his stuff really well. So John Dahl, a little bit more background, really quick. He also did an episode of Breaking Bad, which you and I both love.
Big fans.
But he basically is one of the showrunners on Dexter. He, along with Ernest Dickerson and Steve Schill and Keith Gordon, I mean, between the four of those guys, they've basically directed every episode of Dexter, or almost every episode of Dexter.
Sure, for better, for worse.
Really just with the exception of the first season, so the last couple seasons of that show. This movie is a great showcase for him because he actually wrote this one.
That's a lot of complicated stuff. I don't know if I could get my head around writing this story.
He had some help, right? So he wrote it with his brother Rick.
Okay.
But yeah, on top of the usual directing stuff he has to deal with and doing a great job on that, he puts together this story that is, I mean, it's nuts in how, you know what I really want to talk about with this story is how crazy good it is and how it makes it look so simple.
Yeah, it's so fucking cool. I mean, I used the phrase incestuous tension to describe Red Rock West. And what it is it's because the film starts and you kind of get this vibe for almost a roadsploitation with a little Western tinge. Right, you know, when he doesn't get the construction job.
Yeah, stylistically, it's the sort of, it's like Arizona noir.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's hot, dry, dusty truck and film time. It's almost like a night version of the movie Duel that we talked about. It's not terribly unlike Lost Highway's Road Darkness.
Sure.
You know, parts of it too. I don't know, maybe that's because Dennis Hopper's reminded me of our big, we got a David Lynch show finally coming up.
Oh yeah, that's true.
We've been gearing up to for a while. But the style is thick and it's really interesting. It's just that writing trumps everything else in the movie.
I mean, it folds back on itself, and every time it's a situation, and we talk about this a lot on the show, where it's bad and it gets worse, and just when you think...
you mean the situation? Yeah.
Where you think...
Sometimes the writing does that in movies too. That's possible.
Where the situation is bad and it gets worse, and you think it can't get worse, and it does. We talk about that on the show all the time. That's one of our favorite things.
Yeah.
Is to kick people when they're down and just really drive home the misery.
Yep.
But this is a really unique type of kick you when you're down misery, because it's constant olive branches of, okay, you're getting out of it, and it comes back to fucking Wayne.
Yeah,
it
the olive branch whips you in the face.
To Wayne.
Yep, that's it.
And you end up back in Red Rock, and you're just fucking tense again.
Well, it's a script full of great ideas mixed with underhanded characters. That's exactly why that happens. You know, the players in this story, they create this situation for themselves, and they're just they feed off of each other. You know, they have this, I want to call it a parasitic relationship, but everybody just drags each other down. I don't know. It's, you know, we start with Michael Williams, and he wanders into this bar, you know, after his construction thing or whatever, and he's mistaken for someone else.
Sure.
And this is, I mean, the movie does a lot of wonderful things, but man, this is one of the best.
This is the keystone to the whole film.
Sure. So it kind of has to be.
Yeah, this is the point where our character, who deep down and based on a lot of the other things surrounding Michael, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
This is
or at least the best guy, right? I mean, that's easy to say.
Sure. But this is the point where the surroundings, the situation, where his life is, it gets the better of him, and he makes a glaringly wrong choice.
Yeah, I mean, he gets into this bar, and, you know, he's looking for work anyways or whatever, and this guy just gives him an opening. It's just it is. It lays it on the... We've seen a couple times before, you know, when he walks by the money or whatever, where it's just saying, take it, it's
but
right there.
He doesn't do it.
This might be enough of a, you have to work for it. See, he just wants work.
Sure.
He doesn't know what he's getting into
right
yet. And so it asks that question, you know, what if you just went with it? How long could you do that? What would happen if you just, somebody goes, are you this person? And instead of responding honestly and saying, no, I'm sorry, you have me mistaken for somebody else, you just go, I don't know, why not? Yeah, I'm this person. How long could you do that? It makes you really excited to hear what he uncovers just in that conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all new to you as an audience in the same way that it is to him. He doesn't know what he's literally, every single syllable of every word is as fresh to him as it is to you.
Right.
So he doesn't know he doesn't know what kind of movie he just sat down to watch, and neither do you. And so you're captivated by that. You know, that whole conversation, you just fucking hang on it. It's giving you clues to what the film is about. It's what makes me really excited about detective stories, when they're well done. So he goes from that scene, and he goes and meets our femme fatale, if we're going to follow our blueprint. And, you know, you get that classic feeling right away. It's not even what she does, but it's kind of what he does. It's as if he walks in and then throws her in the role of femme fatale. He's going, you know what, I'm supposed to kill you, but we're going to hatch a plot. Basically deciding to make trouble at that point, you know, to double down on the situation he's already, you know, gotten into. It's like you were talking about folding in on itself. It's just compounding the problem. But, you know, honest guy, what does he do in that situation, right? He can't kill her.
Right.
Even though in retrospect, that makes everything so much easier. That's not the honest thing to do.
Well, the thing about the story is that you end up in a situation like this, and this is the first time it really happens. Second time, if you count the bar, I guess. You end up in a situation where he has the option of pull the plug there, just stop where you are.
Sure.
And just get out of Dodge.
Sure.
But instead, he always makes a decision that doesn't seem like the wrong decision.
Sure.
In this case, the decision to get him to safety the quickest way possible is to kill somebody.
Yeah.
But instead, he makes the, I guess, moral decision to not kill her.
Yeah, in that particular instant, that is the moral decision. But then he cashes in,
and it just gets deeper and more twisted.
Well, he thought he could get out of it by writing this letter.
Sure.
He thought, all right, I'll do the right thing and I'll bail and whatever. And, I mean, we know she's trouble. She's way too into his character throughout the movie. She's not fooling anybody. But by the end, you know, that untrustworthiness is for a good reason. She's just surrounded by these depraved human beings. You know, and I like that instead of getting the kind of powerful femme fatale figure that, you know, I've evangelized so many times in the different pieces of noir we've done, she is in fact a coward. She is spineless and weak. She ends the movie begging and please, you know, what about half? I mean, there's nothing really strong about her. It's just manipulation. So with stuff like the letter, I mean, that's how the movie manages to not lose the enigma that it's built up. Because in that early conversation, I mean, we were just filling in holes. And once the holes are all filled in and we know, you know, what's going on in this movie, what it's about, and everybody's aware that he's not who he said he was, we could lose that enigma. But instead, we're just, you know, we're delivering surprises. The way it kind of reveals those little things, it recreates the magic of that bar scene.
Sure.
You know, like the little surprise sheriff moment. The moment that apparently Red State borrowed. It's so funny that came up.
Well, and so it turns out the sheriff is the bartender, is the guy paying off to get his wife killed.
Sure, the last guy he wants to see walk into that police station.
Right. And initially you think, wow, that's shitty. And then you realize that he wrote that letter to the sheriff.
Yeah.
So
and it's even worse.
The letter that was originally going to be the saving grace and would eventually send the law swooping in is just going to the hands of the person who's already guilty.
Oh, man, Michael, it's like fucking clockwork. He walks in and you go, oh, I really didn't want to see that guy. Oh, wait, that's the sheriff. Oh, wait, he wrote the letter to the sheriff. It's almost like if you were making this movie up as you went along and you stopped in that scene, almost like you were doing improv or something, and you said, who is the worst person who could turn out to be the sheriff? Oh, I got it. And then there's another well-planned surprise in Dennis Hopper's character.
Right.
So I love, you know, this has to be one of the best Dennis Hopper opening lines. What the fuck are you doing? It's better than fuck Mexico, actually.
That's true.
But goddamn, do we love and miss and adore Dennis Hopper on this show.
Every fiber of my being.
He's scary as fuck. He's great in this movie. He's scary on the roof, or when Nicolas Cage's character, when Michael's on the roof, and he's even worse when he's in the house eyeing around. It's even better. It's just that classic Dennis Hopper, Blue Velvet, terrified, gonna find you feeling.
Well, what I really like about Dennis Hopper's character juxtaposed against Wayne the sheriff is when you find out that Wayne and Suzanne were criminals wanted by the FBI.
Sure.
You find out that Wayne's big crime was cooking books.
Yeah.
You realize he was an accountant and he was fraudulent.
He turns out to be as weak as his wife.
He's a white-collar criminal.
Yeah.
And
that's why he's paying people to do his dirty work.
But that's when you realize that he's this white-collar guy. He's not nearly as threatening as a guy who goes around getting paid to murder people. And that's when you see when the four of them are in the car, the power position is shifted.
It's, I mean, you slowly realize Dennis Hopper's character is, well, shouldn't be a surprise to us, but a fucking lunatic.
Yeah.
You know, he's, it starts with that tension. He's looking around Hitman kind of thing. And before you know it, he's springing out from doors, punching you in the face. You know, you have the car scene, right?
Sure.
I mean, one of the most memorable scenes from the film, that kind of racing against the train, and he's yelling, and he's got that adrenaline junkie thing going. And then he's, by the end, he's master villain, and all the other characters are essentially competing to see if they can be worse human beings than him.
Right.
All when originally, you have to remember, Dennis Hopper shows up, and you think, oh, this might be our main character's war buddy.
Sure.
He might turn out to help.
This could be the saving grace.
He even kind of defends him in the beginning when Wayne comes in.
Sure.
You know, but that's another great reveal. He goes in the bar with him. They're settling down, having a drink, and you go, oh, this might be some other guy who's gonna, you know, fuck up his stuff. And then he asks about Wayne, and you go, oh, that's him. That's the guy. And that's the great thing about the script again. I mean, every step feels like a reveal because they've been set up. These are now great payoffs. They never feel cheap because of that.
Sure.
You know, Williams knows he's pretending to be somebody. We know that. It isn't just, oh, turns out there's this other guy. By dropping that part in early and saying, you're taking the place of a guy who never showed up, You don't even go, well, hold on a second. Who is that guy? Why didn't he show up? Is he still around? You don't even think about it.
Yeah.
You just go, oh, good, a job. And you're so, enamored by, what's happening in the scene and what kind of job is this? And what are we going to go explore and do during the movie? And then later they come back and, oh yeah, remember that guy? You probably didn't think too much about that. Oh, that's this guy.
Yeah.
Also great seeing the two different men who found themselves in that hitman position and how drastically different they are. Williams is probably, we get this idea he's sort of reformed because of how ethical he is until he just gives up.
Right.
Until he just gets to the point where he says, well, I'm in a terrible situation. Time to just get the money and get out of here. And every once in a while, you sort of see him turn back to that. He's pouring the money out of the train and stuff. Just kind of going, wait, come on, I'm the good guy. I should really just throw this money out.
Well, I think by the end of it, he just wants to get out and be okay.
Yeah, although it seems so much
is padded with have enough money to be okay.
Sure, right. It just seems more natural to him to fall back on that.
Sure.
It without the movie ever really saying so, it feels like the guy who's getting out of the game, who used to be, shady, and is now trying to turn his life around a little bit. But when the fucking going gets tough, it's just he just falls back into I'm shady. That's just what he knows. Is one of the things that allows us to get all the way to the end of the movie, really, without any twists or turns. We get a lot of these surprises, but it's not a what a twist kind of.
Right.
The choices are made based on the moment and based on who these characters are. And that's why they find themselves in the constant predicaments they do, why they're turning on each other. Not because it was the plan all along to turn on each other, but because of the situations. No one character really trusts the other characters. I mean, none of them in any direction. Rather than backstabbing them or using them, though, they're just quick to turn on each other because they don't know each other. Lyle wasn't sworn to Wayne in the beginning. He was kind of defending Michael. And then he's working for Wayne, but only until he finds out that Wayne's plans all went to hell and that, he could be in charge now. It's the same thing between Wayne and Suzanne, who obviously were married, but that's fallen out, and now they're backstabbing each other. But that happened well before the movie even started. Or Suzanne and Michael, just the whole thing. Without any kind of strong allegiance to one another, they're just throwing themselves into risking everything by relying on one another to try and get this giant score.
Right.
The other thing that's pretty surprising is this ending we do get to is essentially from Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Yeah, it's really kind of goofy.
We're in a foggy graveyard, and I don't even question it until we start getting wide shots of a foggy graveyard. Right. And I've seen it enough times to kind of go, wait, hold on, why are we in a foggy graveyard? How did we find ourselves here? But even in that scene, it distracts you because everything is so delicate.
Sure.
This is, we know this is the end game, and it's a fucking game of chess. Every single little move, every exchange, in order to get out of here, everybody has to make about, 3 to 5 moves, and they have to ask other people for help.
Right.
It's building upon the best things from the rest of the movie in terms of these character interactions. They have to trust everybody momentarily because they're forced to.
Well, because you can't have your back against 3 walls.
Exactly right. So it's always, which is the person who is least likely to betray me in this moment right now. And so they're playing that elaborate 4-way game. And, someone has to open the safe. So who's it going to be? Well, I'll send Dwayne over there. Dwayne knows where the safe is and whatever, that makes sense. Oh, but Dwayne finds a gun in the safe. So now Dwayne, he's got the upper hand, but he needs the keys. So, he has to go back. And then Hopper's character needs to keep an eye on all 3 of them. The caretaker shows up and just complicates this already muddied situation. And everyone just continues screwing each other over because that's the conflict we've gotten ourselves into.
Yeah.
So look at that, an entire section talking about John Dahl without me going on and on about film noir lighting.
Wow, look at you.
Who would have thought? It's just because the script is so good.
It's true.
It's the thing that shines here, outside of obviously the performances. When you have the nuttiness of Nicolas Cage and Dennis Hopper in the same film together.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the reasons I remember that car scene.
Yeah.
Because it's just so much crazy in one tiny vehicle. Yeah. And it's one of those things that make Wayne and Suzanne's character I don't want to say pale by comparison, but they seem like normal people.
Sure,
almost.
But at the beginning of the movie, they were the nuts.
They were the nuts.
They were the scary ones.
Yes.
But nobody is nearly as crazy as John Malkovich in real life or in Burn After Reading.
So, I'm a huge fan of one-sheets. I've talked about this a little bit on the show before. One-sheets being the 27 by 40-ish posters. They're usually the first official art that comes out regarding a movie. Now on the internet, we get stills a lot from production.
Which is lame.
Yeah, one-sheet's so much cooler. But even better than stills, a one-sheet shows you the kind of artistic direction of a film. You sort of get a feel for what kind of film is this going to be, who's in it, what is it about, what is the style. It's the first time you see in a single frame, in a single picture, what is this movie? Am I interested in this?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have a lot of one-sheets around here.
Mm-hmm.
I've always had, one-sheets framed in my apartment. I just really, really love them. There's an interesting one for Burn After Reading. We've never talked about this guy. I think his name's pronounced Saul Bass.
Okay.
He didn't actually do the one-sheet for Burn After Reading, but he's done a lot of really influential stuff for especially that Hitchcock kind of era. He did Magnificent Seven and Vertigo and Anatomy of a Murder. I think one of his most popular ones, at any rate, was The Man with the Golden Arm. That's the one I've seen kind of spoofed and paid tribute to in a lot of different ways. Also did one for The Shining that I ended up not using for our cover art, but you should look that up. It's the yellow one on there. So these are all great minimalistic types of covers. They're using, textured panels and cutout letters. His typography is really easy to recognize. If you look at what'll probably be the cover art for this show, or just look up his name, Saulbass, you'll totally notice a lot of his work. But he also inspired a lot of more modern design because of that kind of trend in minimalism lately. That textured background, really simple ideas, just let the icons speak for themselves sort of thing.
Sure.
I wanted to bring up this guy really quick because unless we pull out some really specific Billy Wilder or Hitchcock movies, I don't know if I'll even remember or get a chance to talk about him. But aside from all of the influential poster art he did, and I should be clear, when I say one-sheets in relation to Saul Bass, that's all, artwork. None of it's, I'm looking at the spiral one right behind you. That's kind of actually a still from the movie. It also has kind of a textured background, cool, minimalistic thing going. But this is all stuff that he designed and painted or drew or what have you. He also did the logos for, Bell Telephone and AT&T, Quaker Oats.
Okay.
These huge, the fucking Kleenex logo, a bunch of airlines. So when you see that AT&T logo, or the Bell one, I remember because you know what that looks like, even though Bell doesn't really exist, at least in the United States. I don't know if they're anywhere else. These very, very memorable logos. One of these unsung guys whose work is everywhere. There's an actual movie to be had on the show.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Tangent time.
And apparently it's about spies.
Yeah, this is a spy thriller.
Go fucking figure. I didn't know shit about this movie. The thing about the Coen brothers for me is that their titles are all bad.
They're distracting.
For me. I'm not even going to say distracting. I'm going to say they have shitty titles.
Okay, that's fine. Well, they did have The Hudsucker Proxy, which may be the worst title of all time.
But it's
okay because we gave it the worst episode of all time.
That's true.
What was with The Hudsucker Proxy?
It was for kids.
No, I mean that was The Social Network. Oh, whatever, that part was fine. It was the Hudsucker Proxy part that was terrible.
But the thing about the Coen brothers is I haven't seen the majority of their filmography, and I keep saying that every time I see.
It's not true anymore.
It's getting to the point where I can't say that
the majority anymore. On double feature.
I love some of their movies.
You love some of their movies. I remember your reaction to The Big Lebowski. Yeah, that was great.
Perfect example. But the thing is the movies I haven't seen, I know the titles.
Yeah.
I knew that Burn After Reading was a Coen brothers comedy. In my head, it had something to do with a bunch of people at maybe like a literature party, like a book club.
Wow, you are watching way too much exploitation.
No fucking idea what was going on with this movie. And it starts with the aerial view and the zoom and all the spy type. Yeah. And immediately I'm lost and it's too chic and I'm just completely surprised with what's happening.
Yeah, you don't know what you got yourself into.
I never do.
They wrote this spy thriller and I love this. They wrote it because... I don't know. We've never done a spy thriller before. Why not do a spy thriller? And they basically wrote all the parts with the actors already in mind.
Yeah, that goes without saying.
I mean, it is the best kind of process for filmmakers to have. And it's nice that they're in a cushy spot where they can just do whatever
Snap
the fuck
their fingers
they want.
and there's John Malkovich and
and more so that a studio is just okay, whatever, spy thriller. True. Yeah, that's good.
Coen Brothers spy thriller, yeah.
Just because they thought this would be fun. They're going to write parts for all these people they know. They're going to put them in there. I assume they got basically everybody.
I can't imagine any.
Especially with a weird cast like this.
Yeah.
Who did you not get? And so you come up with this thing that is, it's a web of a fucking CIA thriller spun by online dating intrigue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What an absurd way to start your movie.
Well, it's great as a spy thriller because the people who are actually involved with the CIA are not spies.
Yeah.
They're
you're
analysts and treasurers, and then there are people who think they know what spies do, who are acting all spy, and the other people just want them to get out of their lives.
Yeah, it's a lot of people who are working at low levels of the government that want to think they're super, super huge rock stars. And then the people who are actually conducting the majority of the spy thriller work at a fucking gym.
Yeah. They have it's not necessarily a thankless job, but it doesn't carry the prestige of CIA.
It's in the game. And so this gets even crazier for me because thinking about this process, you're writing the spy thriller, you write these parts for all these people. I'm trying to imagine, okay, so I come to you, I've written this thing up, right? I want you to be an actor in this, and you're Brad fucking Pitt or whoever, okay?
Brad Pitt is a great example for who you're discussing in this film, I think.
I write this thing, and I come to you, and I say, Michael, I have written this role just for you. It would be perfect for you specifically. You play a baboon. You are stupid. You are the stupidest person alive. In fact, you're dumb as a fucking rock. I know you would just be absolutely great for it, Michael. How do you feel about it? You know what I mean?
It's weird.
And you do this to basically every actor in the movie. You're a great actor. I've written this thing. I think finally this is your moment. You're going to shine.
Yeah.
You play the dumbest man alive, and you're competing with all these other dumb people.
But the thing is they all just fit that role so well.
They do a really good job. Yeah.
I probably would have, on paper, not knowing, picked John Malkovich.
Sure.
I wouldn't have picked Frances McDormand. I wouldn't have even considered Brad Pitt.
Yeah, I know, right?
And George Clooney is always a surprise.
Well, this is also Brad Pitt before Inglourious Bastards.
Right.
When I wouldn't call him dumb in that movie, but he has some charm. It seems like this role might have helped him build up to.
Well, Brad Pitt, I think his biggest strength is coming in as a not the star. He comes in as a character actor, a supporting character.
Yeah, right.
Where he can be big in small parts.
Sure.
And that's where he really excels. In this film, this is the absolute poster image for Brad Pitt being a big character in a small role.
Sure. Yeah, and if you've ever come across interviews or whatever back from when Burn After Reading came out, everybody asked the people who are in this movie about this. Were you offended playing a stupid person, fucking buffoon? And the actors, pretty much all of them were a little puzzled with kind of a hint of offended thrown in there. It's hard to say which one. Linda's intense. Linda's one that I was really surprised by, too, because you don't. With Frances, you think maybe you think Fargo. You definitely don't think something like this.
No,
this
with
type
Frances
of,
McDormand, I always think strong female, independent woman, and she does carry that in this, but it's with this weird
body image,
insecure edge.
Yeah, well, it's the insecurity that makes it different than something like Fargo. People will talk about the characters being simpletons and that. But I thought that was charming by comparison to this. This is more. It's more embarrassing, kind of.
Well, that was dumb people in a slow environment. This is dumb people in a fast environment.
When you get introduced to her, it's the perfect way to do this too, right? Because she's talking to a surgeon. So by nature, it's someone who's trying really hard not to respond to the crazy things she's saying.
Right.
Her body criticism, or she throws something out, and he has to just be. It's beyond objective. He has to just be neutral about everything. And so, it's really the most abrasive exposure you could get to her personality. It's as if you didn't know someone at all and they started saying these things, and you were just trying to be as politically correct in a manner of speaking as you could be. But she's not the one I think of all the time. It's George Clooney's character, who we see at the party doing what I can only assume is a Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice kind of impression. But he has, the same monologues every time he talks to somebody. He gives these to everybody he meets, to the point that when that moment of violence comes later, I think, oh, well, now you got an anecdote to share with people, because that's what he needs.
God, and that violence. So let me tell you something, if I may, about one thing I did know about Burn After Reading. Was spoiled that Brad Pitt dies in a closet.
Oh, interesting.
And when he was in this closet,
sure,
I was sitting there going, this isn't a closet. This could not be. There's no way this is. Oh my God. There's a hole in his head.
Yeah, I know. It's great. It's so funny. We did Super. This is the complete opposite of everything. If you hadn't seen Super, or you didn't listen to that show,
fuck you.
You should see Super. It's, most importantly known for its treatment of violence.
Yeah.
And how it will take violence that is really, really terrible, but it's in a superhero movie. You should feel good about it. And tonally, it treats it like it's fun superhero violence, but it makes you feel devastated and awful. And in Burn After Reading, we have, an immediate and shocking moment of what is really violence, grotesque violence, like any realistic violence, but it's funny. And the movie plays it completely straight. It does the opposite tactic of Super. Right. It's saying this is very, very serious violence, and it shows you very, very serious violence. Somehow humorous. Don't know how it happens. Somehow humorous. The tone of the movie everywhere does weird stuff. It's a film that suggests it's a blockbuster spy thriller, but even bigger than that. The score, especially.
Sure.
The score says, "I am bigger than a blockbuster spy," and from the very beginning, you have these huge, insane drums that are just, you couldn't get away with this in the highest moments of a spy thriller. And you're doing it in what is, by comparison of the climaxes here, a mundane scene. It's this larger than Hans Zimmer kind of thing. And it's giant and screams, hey, this is important.
Yeah.
Which is great for the movie, because everybody treats this trivial thing as if it's the most important thing that's ever happened in the town, or maybe even in their lives, finding these CIA documents. The score is done by Carter Burwell, who I don't know how we've never talked about, but he's done every last Coen Brothers movie. Huh. He even did small pieces of music for Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Oh, yeah.
Which I remember us talking about, largely being a T-Bone produced thing, and having all of this, being kind of musical itself. So Burwell shows up on everything. But in the same way, Roger Deakins was the cinematographer for the Coen Brothers for really a long time. Probably not as long as Burwell. He didn't start with Blood Simple, but he worked with them, I think, all the way up until this movie. This was the first one he didn't do. So I mentioned the cinematographer here, even though it's not a movie where I might go on and on about the cinematography, because the cinematographer they replaced him with is Emmanuel Lubensky, who we went on about in Children of Men quite a bit, as crediting a cinematographer when that's not something we usually do. And, his work in Children of Men is still, even now, even a year after we did that show, or 4 years, I don't remember when that was.
I don't know how many shows we have.
Children of Men, just want to check back in with you. Cinematography is still about the best you can think of offhand.
Pretty much the best there is.
So I love that he showed back up here. And then another name who has come up on the show only briefly, and somebody I'm going to use this movie as an excuse to talk about, which is Tilda Swinton.
Oh yeah, from that creepy GIF online.
I love that you pronounced GIF correctly, but I haven't seen that. She was, in Orlando, the Virginia Woolf movie. Uh-huh. That was kind of where she got her big start. But The Deep End and Adaptation, and Michael Clayton with George Clooney, and then I think there was one other, Benjamin Button with Brad Pitt. Probably been in a lot of crossover stuff with a bunch of these different actors. But we talked about her just briefly in Constantine, playing kind of a weird role back then. She's done a lot of art house stuff. And the thing that I find really interesting about Tilda Swinton, she gets a lot of praise as an actress. Mm-hmm. She's won dozens, if not fucking hundreds of awards, or been nominated, or whatever the fuck any of that means. But she famously said she would rather be handsome than pretty.
Yeah.
Looking at her, she's a very androgynous woman. And despite having been nominated for all these awards and clearly being able to act, getting into the mainstream almost by necessity because of how highly in demand she is, she's still a model. She does this kind of photography modeling. It's not the Mia Jovovich or however. I've already forgotten how to pronounce her name from when she did it for us. Damn it. She doesn't do Mia's stuff where, I started in modeling and I had the Fifth Element and I transitioned into this stuff. Maybe she did. I don't know enough about her background. She's clearly got an acting background, but consistently does modeling for art photography because she has to. Yeah. Because she looks the way she does.
Right.
She has this kind of... her body, her face, her hair.
It's extraterrestrial in a really...
Everything about her begs to be photographed.
Yeah, it's this really attractive, ethereal, departed look.
It's the androgyny. I mean, I can't think of... I used to, before I knew Tilda Swinton, I thought about Brian Molko from Placebo being, poster child of androgyny or whatever. But fucking Tilda Swinton... Just do yourself a favor. Google image search Tilda Swinton. If you really want to get intense, Google image search Tilda Swinton androgyny. You will find all sorts of just amazing, amazing images of this person.
So, Burn After Reading, again, it's a spy movie.
Yes.
I'm still a little surprised that
I know,
it's a
you're
spy
still
movie.
way back at step one.
In fact, the only thing about this movie that seems like a spy movie is when they're back in the CIA doing the briefing.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about the movie. They're doing the, this is what's going on. And then J.K. Simmons, BR from Thank You for Smoking.
Yeah, right.
He's sitting there doing how does this apply to us? Is there
right.
Is there anything going on? No? Oh, all right then. Keep me posted if anything becomes understandable.
Yeah, he shows up towards the end. And this, to think back about how we've been talking about this movie, it's surrounded by the cast. Everything we have to say about this movie is cast and crew who worked on it, because ultimately the movie is about those characters and that cast.
Well, it's a Coen Brothers movie.
And,
it's always about the characters.
Sure. Yeah, but it's you can't even really give the Hudsucker Proxy. I could tell you what that plot was about.
That's true.
Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I could tell you what that plot was about. Burn After Reading, I guess I could still give you a synopsis of it.
But it's less important.
You couldn't do it without mentioning the characters.
Right, that's true.
Who the characters are is part of the high concept. This is important documents found by idiots. And so if you don't have your idiots, you don't have your movie. That is what your premise is here. So at every beat of the story, it becomes incredibly important who those characters are. Otherwise, you have no farce. There is no farce here. J.K. Simmons is the nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
He's, you mentioned the great Thank You for Smoking thing. I think about him probably most recently. He's got that part in Spider-Man that's iconic, even though it's newer.
Very true.
I guess no longer newer, but the newest thing for me that is J.K. Simmons is Cave Johnson.
Oh my God, Cave Johnson.
But I don't know, when you start thinking about Portal and Cave Johnson, and he got a lot of recognition for that, which is great. I also think Steve Merchant does incredible voice work in that. Just absolutely phenomenal voice work in that thing. Stephen Merchant's part in that stands out to me as second really to only maybe Mike Patton, which I really like the stuff he's been doing, and Michelle Forbes, particularly her part in Dark Athena, and I guess I have to mention Half-Life for her too. Portal just had so many, it doesn't get recognition by a film audience nearly enough. The second Portal, the sequel to Portal, just for there's only a couple characters, and their voice work is great, and their story is great. And Simmons is just as awesome as Cave Johnson and just as well recognized. I think it's one of those things that helps that medium transcend into the art world a little bit more.
Well, one of the best things anybody on our listenership can do right now is Google Cave Johnson sayings.
Yeah, well, that too. There's a lot of great stuff written.
What's the one that's on all the shirts? When Life Gives You Lemons.
YouTube that, because there's also these great little shorts on why you should invest in technology that Valve made for that thing, and it was just incredible. To say that his work on there helped bring that medium as a whole into film world and into art world is the tribute that his performance needs. So he's the one who, aside from representing, what are we doing in this spy movie, he also is the one who sees that, this is clearance level 3. It's almost this, you can see this kind of relief to him, as if to say, this whole thing that's before us, this entire fucking movie, is no big deal.
What is a big deal is we have this website. It's doublefeatureshow.com.
Huge deal.
We also have an email. That's doublefeatureshow@gmail.com. More importantly than even those two things.
Oh, I know it usually. I've been here before. This is the ending of the show. So let's see. Email, Facebook, the thing, all the crap we usually say that people have tuned out by now. Movies. The movies next time on Double Feature.
Right. So next time we're back to our journey. Wait. Not that journey. This is a journey that we threw out the window last year.
Yeah, right.
And then got tons of Haiti emails for throwing it out the window. This is our spaghetti western Sergio Leone kaiju journey.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. We didn't even know. I mean, that's eventually what inspired other journeys on this show. But yeah, that's something that I feel more like it was a dangling plot thread.
Yeah.
That a couple viewers, it's the Libby of our show, is basically what it is.
Yeah.
People have tuned in and they said, hey, I was really interested in that one idea you guys had. Are you not going back to that, or what happened?
I cannot count how many kaiju emails I've gotten.
So before we did Sergio Leone's first Dollars movie, A Fistful of Dollars.
Right.
The big Clint Eastwood, as epic as a spaghetti western could ever. No, I will say more epic than a spaghetti western ever thought it could be. But we did it with Gojira,
right? Which
was for American audiences, that is the monster Godzilla.
Yeah, it's basically the first kaiju movie of all time.
And that was a full show. And we said, you know what? There's a lot more kaiju, and we want to do these other Leone movies. What do we do about that?
Well, I think what we do about that is we do For a Few Dollars More and Gamera Guardian of the Universe.
Okay, so for a few dollars more, everybody will be able to find.
Sure.
This Gamera movie is the one from 1995.
Right, it's the second era of kaiju. It's the first in that second trilogy that they made about Gamera. Gamera's watch more fucking film.
And bye.
Well, boys, looks like you started the fun without me.
You're all sick. Every last one of you.
We're going to need a bigger gun.
What's the matter? You scared of things that go boom, boom?
Give me one goddamn reason why I shouldn't blow your goddamn brains all over that goddamn wall.
Ugh, you got your brains all over that goddamn wall.
Welcome to Double Feature. Michael, how are you doing this fine evening?
I'm doing wonderfully.
My name is Eric, and we're doing a show with two movies on it.
We're going to pair a couple films together. We're going to do Red Rock West and Burn After Reading.
So we'll call this the Because Red Rock West and Blood Simple Isn't Funny Enough episode of Double Feature.
Because I've just recently watched Blood Simple.
Yeah, that would have been perfect for this too.
Oh my God.
I mean, that would have been actually a better double feature.
Red Rock West and Blood Simple is an enthrallingly tense double feature.
It is. Well, that's the problem. Too tense.
Fuck tension.
This way we'll get to talk about a lot of Coen stuff, but in a light, happy mood that everyone will enjoy. Yeah. We're going to spoil both of the movies, obviously. You've heard this show before, right? No.
I haven't heard this show.
And then you probably want to use the chapters feature to skip over the movies you haven't seen. Or you know what? You're a free operating human being. Maybe you want to spoil the movies for yourself. I can totally
is always
Arizona noir.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's hot, dry, dusty trucking film time. It's almost like a night version of the movie Duel that we talked about. It's not terribly unlike Lost Highway's Road Darkness.
Sure.
Parts of it too. I don't know. Maybe that's because Dennis Hopper's reminded me of our big, we got a David Lynch show finally coming up.
Oh yeah, that's true.
We've been gearing up to for a while. But the style is thick and it's really interesting. It's just that writing trumps everything else in the movie.
I mean, it folds back on itself, and every time it's a situation, and we talk about this a lot on the show, where it's bad and it gets worse, and just when you think...
you mean the situation?
Yeah. where you think
sometimes the writing does that in movies too. That's possible.
Where the situation is bad and it gets worse, and you think it can't get worse, and it does. We talk about that on the show all the time. That's one of our favorite things. Yeah, is to kick people when they're down and just really drive home the misery.
Yep.
But this is a really unique type of kick you when you're down misery, because it's constant olive branches of, okay, you're getting out of it, and it comes back to fucking Wayne.
Yeah, the olive branch whips you in the face.
To Wayne.
Yep, yeah, that's it.
And you end up back in Red Rock, and you're just fucking tense again.
Well, it's a script full of great ideas mixed with underhanded characters. That's exactly why that happens. You know, the players in this story, they create this situation for themselves, and
possibility that people just listen to this show as an alternative to watching the films for, say, a date or trivia.
So they have a date with two strangers on the internet they don't know?
Yeah, I guess that's pretty much...
All right, so nothing wrong with that. No. What we're getting to is that we come on the show every week and we judge the listeners who do not watch the films. Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing at all.
As long as you know what you're getting into. Red Rock West is the first movie. Here's a name. Hasn't come up on the show in a while. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
John Dahl.
Oh, yeah. John Dahl.
Yeah, where do we know John Dahl from?
We know John Dahl from the world famous Joyride episode.
World famous feature. Meaning one episode of our podcast famous.
Yeah.
You know what? That's not even true. It wasn't even the most famous episode on that show, because that was also the Jeremy Caston episode.
Oh my God, so it was, wasn't it?
2/3 of the episode was crazy talk, and 1/3 was Joyride.
But we did Joyride. We loved Joyride, and subsequently loved John Dahl.
It's
jumping
true.
His cars in front of trains.
Although that was back when our show sounded like an insufferable review show.
Yeah, that's true.
So, sorry, everyone had to go through that. But we did talk Joyride, and you were showing that to me back in year one, and I liked it quite a bit, and obviously, you know, it was your movie, you liked it too.
Big fan of Joyride.
We talked about him being a big neo-noir guy.
Yeah.
And so I thought, all right, let's actually see that. Let's do one of those on the show. You know, Rounders came out right before Joyride, and I think that's a fine example of that stuff too. They're just, they feed off of each other. You know, they have this, I want to call it a parasitic relationship, but everybody just drags each other down. I don't know. It's, you know, we start with Michael Williams, and he wanders into this bar, you know, after his construction thing or whatever, and he's mistaken for someone else.
Sure.
And this is, I mean, the movie does a lot of wonderful things, but man, this is one of the best.
This is the keystone to the whole film.
Sure. So it kind of has to be.
Yeah, this is the point where our character, who deep down and based on a lot of the other things surrounding Michael, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
This is
or at least the best guy, right? I mean, that's easy to say.
Sure. But this is the point where the surroundings, the situation, where his life is, it gets the better of him, and he makes a glaringly wrong choice.
Yeah, I mean, he gets into this bar, and, you know, he's looking for work anyways or whatever, and this guy just gives him an opening. It's just there exactly. It is. He lays it on the... We've seen a couple times before, you know, when he walks by the money or whatever, where it's just saying, take it, it's right there.
He doesn't do it.
This might be enough of a, you have to work for it. See, he just wants work.
Sure.
He doesn't know what he's getting into.
Right.
Yet. And so it asks that question, you know, what if you just went with it? How long could you do that? What would happen if you just, somebody goes, are you this person? And instead of responding honestly and saying, no, I'm sorry, you have me mistaken for somebody else, you just, but man, Red Rock West. And
God damn.
It showcases his stuff really well. So John Dahl, a little bit more background really quick. He also did an episode of Breaking Bad, which you and I both love.
Big fans.
But he basically is one of the showrunners on Dexter. He, along with Ernest Dickerson and Steve Schill and Keith Gordon, I mean, between the four of those guys, they've basically directed every episode of Dexter, or almost every episode of Dexter.
Sure, for better, for worse.
Really, just with the exception of the first season. So the last couple seasons of that show. This movie is a great showcase for him because he actually wrote this one.
That's a lot of complicated stuff. I don't know if I could get my head around writing this story.
This is, he had some help, right? So he wrote it with his brother, Rick. Okay. But yeah, on top of the usual directing stuff he has to deal with and doing a great job on that, he puts together this story that is, I mean, it's nuts in how, you know what I really want to talk about with this story is how crazy good it is and how it makes it look so simple.
Yeah. It's so fucking cool. I mean, I use the phrase incestuous tension to describe Red Rock West. And what it is it's because the film starts and you kind of get this vibe for almost a roadsploitation with a little Western tinge, right? You know, when he doesn't get the construction job.
Yeah, stylistically, it's this sort of, it's like